Welcome to the Porn Reboot podcast, where you get practical tips to gaining control over your porn or sex addiction. We help ambitious men end their out-of-control sexual behavior with pornography, sex, and masturbation so that you can maximize your life, perform at your potential, and remain in control in the driver's seat, which is where you have to be in order to gain or maintain the success you want in life. I'm your host, J.K. Emezi, certified sex and porn addiction recovery coach. Welcome to the episode. In today's session, you're going to be hearing from Dr. Jessica Eastman, Elevated Recovery and Porn Reboot's Trauma, Reboot, and Mental Health Specialist. Dr. Eastman is a trauma-informed doctor and a trauma reboot coach with over a decade of experience in mental health care and addiction recovery. Her approach is built on compassion, understanding, and the latest in gentle supportive therapy and counseling. Dr. Eastman specializes in mindfulness, somatic therapy, polyvagal theory, and family systems theory. She offers personalized strategies to support your nervous system and foster a healthy reboot. Enjoy the episode.
Okay, so this question says, I have recently been struggling to face my emotions with insecurities, emotions such as anxiety, shame, doubt, fear of the future, and a lot of negative self-talk involving believing I'll never be loved or women won't find me attractive, etc. This has been causing me to procrastinate my evening routine via binge eating or watching YouTube because usually this is when my insecurities come up. I have dialogued before and it brought up a lot of strong emotions, but I still tend to procrastinate my evening routine. How can I come to terms with what is and make it easier to accept these feelings? So for starters, I think I can add a couple suggestions here, and it sounds like this person is doing a lot of the right things already, like dialoguing, paying attention, tracking these feelings, doing the best they can to be present with them. And this is a pattern that I see often in a lot of these questions or in a lot of these moments. You're like, I dialogued with it, but it's still here. What do I do next? Keep dialoguing with it. Keep showing up to interact with it. Keep making space to feel the feelings. You got to think about mental health and reboot and recovery in the same way that you do physical health and strength training and going to the gym. And you would never expect yourself to be able to squat a reasonable amount of weight or a heavy amount of weight if you went there and practiced it once. You can't even expect that of yourself if you went there and practiced it 20 times. You can expect some progress in 20 times, but if you want to bench press your body weight, you got to work up to it. You have to put in the reps. And it's exactly the same for reboot, for recovery, for mental health. You got to keep showing up. And so if it didn't work the first time, do it again. And I understand that it's a little bit less clear to know if you're doing it correctly or not than something as tangible as a squat or a bench press or something. And in that case, the thing I always say is, well, I've actually never said this before, but I will say it. Don't give up after the first try. But the thing I do always say is if you have tried many times and you are feeling stuck, that's an indication that you need support. None of this work realistically can be done in entirety on your own. You could read all the books in the world and listen to every podcast JK has produced, and it's not going to be sufficient to get you where you want to go. You need an AP, you need a team, you need a group of support people, you need probably a coach or a therapist, So if you're feeling stuck, then you tag someone in, you ask for help or you get some advice, and if you aren't sure where to start, talk to one of the reboot heroes and they can point you in a right direction, right? They can be like, yo, I think this would be really served by you chatting with your AP, or I think it actually would be really great for you to book a session with a coach or talk to JK about this. There's lots of resources here. There's lots of resources outside of this program as well. No man is an island. You can't do it by yourself. And I want to also commend whoever asked this question and anybody else who's doing similar work for noticing when I dialogue with these emotions, when I have dialogue with these insecurities, a lot of intense emotions come up. That's a good sign. And I know it feels a little paradoxical, but if you dialogue with things and it brings up big feelings, I can totally understand that the instinct that you would have would be to not do that again, to run away from it. But what you actually want to do is gently, tiny baby steps at a time, lean into it. If you are doing a practice like dialoguing or like name, validate, feel, or whatever else that you're doing, part of the modules or suggested by a coach, and it's bringing up big emotions, that's a sign that you are on the right track, because all emotions are stored in your body until you feel them and release them. You got to go through it to get out. I always imagine this work like you are in a video game And I don't know why, because I don't play video games, but I've watched a lot of people in my life play video games, maybe. So you're on a journey. It's like one of those video games where you gotta like get through all of the levels and meet the bosses and like, get from one side of the map to the other. And so if you are on your journey and you're like collecting your items to like strengthen your toolbox and make it possible for you to be able to fight the boss at the end of that level, when you get to that boss and you're scared and it's hard and you have to try it a few times to get it, that doesn't mean you're failing in the video game. That actually means you're like about to level up, but you got to keep going. That's how this work works. So if you find a pocket of strong emotions where you're like, oh, dang, I did not realize I had all these feelings, or I don't know what to do with all these feelings, it doesn't mean push into them necessarily, right? If it feels so overwhelming that you don't know how to handle it on your own, call a friend, tag your AP in, book a session with a coach. Like that's the prime spot for you to get help. But start to reframe your association with intense or strong emotions, because typically, most of us were raised in a world that said, oh, strong emotions are bad, you should avoid them. And we are here actually to do the opposite, which is learn how to hold space for and feel those feelings so that they can get out of our bodies and stop dragging us down or holding us back or causing us to do these suboptimal behaviors like binge eating or watching YouTube or watching porn or whatever it is. All of those are distraction attempts at self-soothing the discomfort that you're experiencing. So, keep doing the work, lean into it.
I'm JK, your brother in this struggle. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Porn Reboot podcast. I'll speak to you later on in the week. If you found this episode helpful, here are 4 ways I can help you with your out-of-control sexual behavior for free. The first way is to grab a free copy of my book, Confessions of a Porn Addict, 7 Secrets of Porn-Free Men at elevatedrecovery.org, or visit the link in the description below this episode. The second way is, if you're not sure where to start, but you'd like to learn more about my team and I, if you'd like to spend time with like-minded professionals and business owners who are controlling their behavior, then join our free and confidential group, the Porn Reboot group on Facebook. There's a link to join in the description below this episode. The third way is if you need help right now because you have a burning issue, your behavior with pornography is hurting you mentally or emotionally, you're about to lose your relationship, you want to live up to your potential, be an authentic man, and free yourself from shame, guilt, and underachieving, then click on the link in the description below this episode that says free coaching call. And the fourth way is to leave us a 5-star review if you enjoy this podcast, so that we can reach more men who are struggling in silence and bring back the lessons we learn from coaching them to freedom.